Since we're reaching to the point where talking about Christmas material from other cartoons has become a lot more lower than usual, here is Billy and Mandy Save Christmas, which for me personally, I had less expectations when it comes to getting into this with it being 44 minutes long, but I'm not gonna lie, out of all the episodes that I've talked about, or specials centering around Christmas, this one is the best out of almost all of them, but at the same time, we still have a couple more Christmas videos to go. The plot centers around Mandy not believing in Santa Claus, unlike Billy and even Grimm, which leads to Grimm taking Billy and Mandy to the North Pole to prove that Santa does exist. When they meet Mrs. Claus, who is Nancy, she takes them down to where Santa is at, who is a vampire, which is weird considering that he mostly looks like a troll, but okay. And this leads to a quest for Grimm and Mandy. The attempt to end Balin, who is the one who turned Santa into a vampire, but as it turns out, he wasn't the one who turned Santa into a vampire. You wanna know who turned Santa into a vampire? The thumbnail just speaks for itself. For me personally, I saw bits and pieces from this, and I think I did watch it once, but I barely remember it. I think that one of the reasons onto why that this episode is slightly better than the other episodes / specials that I talked about for this month is mainly the fact that it actually took Christmas a little seriously when it comes to action-packed sequences. And I'm not talking about the Big City Greens episode because it was all in virtual reality. This special is mainly focusing on Mandy not believing in Santa, but the moment that she sees Mrs. Claus, which is Nancy, she honestly cannot believe that any of this is actually true, but at the end of the special, during the credits, she still doesn't believe in Christmas or anything because Santa still gave her coal. You know, as much as Mandy can somewhat be relatable, at the same time, it just kind of shows that the mean-spirited nature from this show is honestly weird that it actually works out. Like, in the Halloween episode that I talked about, there wasn't a lot of mean-spirited moments, but when it comes to the end credits, it kind of gave me the indication that Mandy instantly knew how this is going to turn out, and when the unexpected comes, she is mostly unprepared. And yet, at the same time, she acts like she was prepared all along, even though that she wasn't. Then again, most Christmas specials and movies are supposed to be different from each other, and with the direction that this took with Nancy being the vampire who turned Santa into a vampire all along, really shows that they really wanted the whole Mrs. Claus becoming a major factor in this special. Because the way of how she's been treated and the fact that she's doing all the chores while Santa's making deliveries. If it was the other way around, I would probably love to see that method, but when it came to the direction in this, sometimes I can relate to her, but at the same time, she doesn't even know what it's like on sending gifts around the world when it comes to Santa's point of view. When it came to backstories, it really feels like this show's contributing factor of the positivity of the positives is the backstory centering around the antagonists, and even though that this isn't as good as Jack's backstory, it kind of shows that this is the only way where we're going to see Mrs. Claus and Mr. Claus becoming a thing, which for me personally, I don't think we ever see that in other Christmas specials or movies. Granted, I'm not bothering on checking those, but at the same time, this is still a first, and seeing the elves as bats is honestly clever. And to tell you the truth, the action sequences is actually the biggest highlight of them all, because even though that we don't get to see the trail that Grimm and Mandy went through, especially the ponies, but I did like the bits, well, how Grimm stated that the ponies were a lot more aggressive. It really shows that this actually foreshadows Friendship is Magic, just almost 5 years before Friendship is Magic became a thing. But still, my biggest problem of this episode is Billy being a little overreactive. Yes, I understand that he's really into the Christmas mood and he does contribute something towards the end, but the way I see it, for how he just not sees everything of what's really happening in front of him, I still can't take him seriously. I'm just letting you know that I just can't stand those types of characters, and even when they're executed good, I just can't get over it. To be truthfully honest, whenever I see Billy in this, it just really feels like that he's trying way too hard, but at the same time, even after almost 2 decades, it's not enough for me to find any enjoyment from his character, especially how he was portrayed from the episode I compared to the Victor and Valentino episode way earlier this year. Let's be truthfully honest that even if I look into the negatives way too much, whenever I try to look at the positives, it's not enough. But still, aside from that, I actually found this a lot more enjoyable in comparison to the other Christmas episodes / specials that I've talked about in this month. To be truthfully real with you, whenever I think about this episode after watching it, it made me appreciate that the Grim Adventures and Billy Mandy can do a little bit more, despite the one episode that I talked about earlier this year, but at the same time, that's mainly just me just getting back into cartoons and only watching them once in a while. For this Christmas special's credit, it actually gave Mandy the development that even if she doesn't believe at Christmas at the end of the special, it really feels like that they're really trying to make Mandy a little sympathetic on trying to see that Santa is real. Then again, it doesn't change the fact that the other episodes may be a mixed bag. But keep in mind, that's really my point of view of what I see involving these characters nowadays than how I felt back then, and then between the time, well, I'm just not really into these cartoons anymore and prefer the other cartoons. So all in all, I'm giving this special a 7.25 out of 10, and there's only 2 more Christmas videos left until we reach around the corner towards Christmas. I'll see you guys next time.